Hi, ladies, and welcome to week 1. I want to ask that you read your student competencies and the weekly competencies on your own. I would like to wish you all a Happy New Year and remind you that there are far, far better things ahead than anything we leave behind. So better things are yet to come. This week for our discussion, we're going to talk about some nurses who are involved in working to initiate change. I want you to explain the relationship between nursing and healthcare policy. So that's one thing in your discussion. And the other thing is to choose a nursing leader who was a pioneer in healthcare and discuss his or her role in healthcare policy. Some nursing leaders that I admire are Florence Nightingale, of course. She was the founder of a lot of nursing practice and pioneered many of our interventions that we use today, from infection control to proper hand hygiene and cleaning linens, to self-care, requiring patients to do things for themselves, to assessments by deciding that nurses needed to make more frequent rounds, and that assessments were the core of nursing, by discovering and working toward therapeutic communication, talking to patients and offering them empathy and compassion. She also was big in bringing spiritual nursing to her patients, especially at end of life, and was a very big public health advocate, and also was one of the first ones to recognize the role of nursing education. There's also Dorothea Dix, who I admire, who revolutionized care for the mentally ill. If you read anything about her, you'll see that there were deplorable conditions before she worked on this. Florence Wald, who improved the care of dying and is known as the mother of hospice. And Patricia Benner, who is really my particular favorite. She is a nurse educator who's written 9 books about nursing and nursing education. And she's had a really big influence on international nursing legislation. I'm such a geek that I went to a conference that she did, and I waited at the end to get her autograph on my book. Just some of the ones that we just talked about. So the assignment is to talk about the Affordable Care Act that goes way back to now 2010. And how it was enacted to provide access to affordable and accessible health care for uninsured and underinsured Americans. I want you to describe and evaluate the Affordable Care Act, including the provisions of patient-centered care related to preferences, culture, and abilities of individuals and families. And then think about a policy that is in this Affordable Care Act, because there's a lot of stuff that is included in this Affordable Care Act, and how it impacts patient-centered care. Here's an important thing I want you to remember when doing any kind of research on the Affordable Care Act. Make sure that it is current, unless you're going back to describe the initial act, okay? Because so many changes have come. I'm going to post some articles in the announcements after I'm done doing this video, because there are a lot of changes that are coming down the pike with the Affordable Care Act and the Trump presidency. There's even been a recent judge who is declaring that the Affordable Care Act is unconstitutional. So there's more to come on that. So as I said, please use the most current references when you're talking about anything current in the Affordable Care Act. So patient-centered care, as it has to do with the Affordable Care Act, is been around for quite a while. But when the Affordable Care Act placed financial incentives on it is when the providers really began to take notice. So when hospitals and doctors and pharmacies just realized that there was money to be made or lost, they really began to take notice in it. So under the Affordable Care Act, hospitals now receive performance-based bonuses or penalties based on 2 measures: value-based purchasing and readmission rates. Care that is truly patient-centered considers a patient's culture, personal preferences, their family, their lifestyle, makes the patient an integral part of the care team. When the care is patient-centered, services can be reduced. This you can see is from a website, The Evolution of Patient-Centered Care, and it talks about healthcare reform driving hospitals to achieve better hospitals with fewer resources at a lower cost. Patient-centered care will continue to take on greater importance. It talks about patient satisfaction. In a patient-centered environment, employees are more satisfied with their work and are more willing to stay in their jobs. As it's a central goal for the U.S. healthcare system under healthcare reform, the time to start shifting to a more patient-centered model of care is now, according to this website. I'm just curious as to whether or not you have any thoughts and what they are about patient-centered care, readmissions, patient satisfaction. Looking forward to your discussions, looking forward to reading your papers, and as always, please contact me if you have any questions. You can write questions in the question and answer portion of Canvas. You can email me. You can put it right in the discussion. I do usually play an active role in discussion, either adding some thoughts or asking questions or adding articles. So I will see you guys soon online. Here's just a silly picture of me and Iris. See you soon.